The Sunday at Mike's live stream. Thank you so much for taking the time to show up. So good to be here on the Sunday evening, a little rainy here in Amsterdam. I hope wherever you're at, you're feeling fine, doing well, got better weather than this. Morning, noon, or evening, wherever you're at. Thank you so much for taking the time to show up. I always start out by saying that time is a valuable thing, and you spending a little bit of yours with me is really greatly appreciated. So thank you. We got Ben in the house. Hey, how you doing there? Say something about Three Chord Dave's comeback. That's the best news that I've heard in a while. Yeah, yeah. Let's wait for more people to get into the chat, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But this week is Mr. Watson in the house. How you doing? Good to have you here. You know, maybe this week I shall start doing my guitar safari again. So I'm interested with how that's going to work out, but that's kind of the only thing that's been going on here at Upstairs to Ride Music. At the As I said, I'm going to do some recording coming up here for some stuff I want to finish for my third album I released on Bandcamp. I have five other albums. Other than this, I guess this would make number eight. I'd like to put out an eighth album, but just for Bandcamp. And so I'm gonna work on that, but nothing really going on here, kids. It's been kind of quiet. Tommy, hey, how you doing, sir? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, all's quiet on the Western Front here. A good thing and a bad thing, to be sure, but that's okay. Um, I was just watching a documentary right now before I came online about Rick James. As you know, I have a connection with Rick James. I dated a woman by the name of Tanya Hijazi back when I was in LA, and she ended up getting together with Rick James. And so I find that interesting. But just studying about him and seeing his background, and I had no idea that Rick James was supposed to show up to a party that was being held up in the hills that was being thrown by the actress Sharon Tate. That party did not end so well when the Manson crew showed up. But he had a migraine that night, he said, so he didn't go. But that is interesting. That is just crazy that Rick James would have been up there at that Sharon Tate Manson murder that occurred back in, what was that, 69? That's crazy. But the fact that he was very tied in with Sabring, we talked about Sabring when I was reading from the Laurel Canyon book. And apparently, Jay Sebring was giving Rick James a lot of money while he was a struggling musician in LA. And he was really big buddies with quite a few people, including Joni Mitchell, interestingly enough. But honestly speaking, that all doesn't really surprise me. I have to be honest with you guys. Again, that Laurel Canyon scene, in conjunction with what was going on over in the UK, with a lot of the weirder things that were occurring. The tentacles of that we can still feel to this very day, to be honest with you. And maybe one of these live streams I will talk about that. I've been looking into the music scene a little bit on the esoteric side lately, out of boredom. Nothing that I didn't already know, but a few connections did come together. So maybe a live stream on that might be interesting. But Rick James is certainly was an interesting character, to be sure. That as a matter of fact, I'm being kind when I say interesting. he was he was quite something. But yeah, guys, Three Chord Dave is back. If you guys haven't caught it at the very top of the chat here, Scott was kind enough to put a link to Dave's channel. I want you guys all to go over there if you haven't yet and take a look at Three Chord Dave's return. I'm very pleased to have Dave back. He's my favorite YouTube channel, as you know, in this space. Um, One of my favorite guys at the YouTube guitarist table in this cafeteria we call YouTube. And I just really appreciated his first, message. He actually had me cracking up. It was pretty funny. He said some things that, I was like nodding my head with. I was like, yep, yep, yep. But then in the end, he started cooking. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but he tells the story of how not to do a live stream. Which it just was it was so funny to me. I actually, I laughed out loud, and a few other things he said there that were pretty funny. Pretty funny stuff, I have to say. What's going on here? Let me catch up here in the chat. Let me refresh here, guys, because for some reason I'm not getting everything. Not surprising. Maddie, hey, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. Yeah, you got to check him out, guys. So go over to his channel. He has returned with his unique thoughts on the subject of guitar YouTube dying. Um, he pretty much relate into a lot of things, although there is one thing that I will counter at this time. Not in disagreement, just a counter argument, because Dave is a pretty smart guy. But he was mentioning about YouTubers, guitar YouTubers, who take a subject and all of them start speaking upon it because the general idea, I guess, because I have no handler at YouTube, I'm too small of a channel to have such an honor yet. But supposedly they tell you that that kind of practice is encouraged in order to get viewers, get a conversation going across channels, and I agree with him. It's one of the things that I've always said, that it just seems that everybody is, well, with a product release, that's pretty understandable. We know how that goes. But some subjects, like the subject of YouTube guitar channels dying and this, that, and the other, I didn't touch upon it because it's low hanging fruit. And he talks about that. However, you can draw conversations from other tables. Again, YouTube's cafeteria at high school. We all have our little clicky tables. There are other tables that are talking about subjects that you can, transpose over into our table, our subject of gear, and it works. Tonight's subject is actually a good example of that. And it is a subject that's being talked on other tables, on other channels, not on Guitar Gear YouTube. As a matter of fact, very few people have talked about this, to my knowledge. So, honestly speaking, there is that you can do that, and I do that quite often. Sometimes, when I'll jot an idea down because I'll see something, and yes, I keep a pen and pad. And then I'll work it from there, but to flesh it out. But honestly speaking, you guys got to check it out. The Return of Three Chord Dave, hilarious. I mean, he really had me cracking up at the end. And his points and his unique ideas are really missed here in this landscape. So I'm glad to see that he's back. So everybody, check that out. Frederick Rogers in the house. Cat's Music Journey in the house. Hey all, don't say YouTube channels are dying. I'm trying to build one. I'm editing video right now. Yeah. Please continue. But check out what Three Chord Dave has to say on this subject. You know, you do you. You know, you do you, and you'll be all right. That's been my basic philosophy. I like at the end. He says, "Well, I'm kind of half-assing it, but I do all right." I like that. Um, and that kind of works. That's a good, comfortable spot to be in. I enjoy it. But you do you. You do you on YouTube, and you'll be all right. When you start trying to copy other people, or you can learn a few tips and tricks in terms of editing and things of that nature. But in terms of your content, it has to be you. And that was one of his biggest points about having a personality, too. some that people can relate to, you know. So check him out, guys. Take a look at that. Uh, I'm having my usual cat dander because I had to kick my cat out. So if I rub my eye every now and then, you guys will excuse me. You won't see that on the podcast, thank God. Tonight we're going to talk about something that kind of touches us all. I want to get back to basics. You know, I want to get back to the I'm good philosophy. I want to get back to talking to you guys. This chat really, you know, I'm watching the stream right now, and the people that are watching. By the way, if you guys like the live stream, take a minute to hit the like button. I do appreciate that very much. Thank you. This really is for folks that are getting older. Tonight's discussion. However, if somebody had told this to me when I was younger, I would have appreciated. So there's something here for everybody in this discussion tonight, this live stream. The subject is declutter while you can, the I'm good philosophy. And, you know, the I'm good philosophy, which is the channel motto here on this channel, as you've seen in the past, covers a wide range of things. There's a lot of turf that I'm good can cover. And I really think that tonight's discussion is going to hit on one aspect of I'm good that we all really need to seriously consider. David, hey, how you doing? Welcome. Good to have you in the house. Welcome to you guys. So tonight we're going to talk about something that really touches us all. You know, it's about stuff, about accumulation over our lifetime, um, hobby stuff, gear stuff, keepsakes. Some of it we love, some of it we keep because we think we may need it someday. But in the I'm good motto, the basis of that really is basic philosophy is uh, really contentment with what you have and letting go that does not serve you. And you can see how in that statement, how that can apply to not just, you know, stuff, but, you know, people as well in some cases. You know. Commitment with what you have. Because so committing to the things that you have, okay. But letting go of things that don't serve you. So the problem is with stuff. Problems with stuff. Terminator, how you doing? You know, Terminator, by the way, I have to say that, you know, by Terminator 5 or 6, you know, it's starting to get a little soft there. I hope that, you know, you get back to your Terminator 1, Terminator 2 kind of thing. Well, Terminator 2 is where you really start going soft. But anyway, I digress. But since you're here, I thought I would bring that up. Many people in their 50s and 60s hang on to decades of accumulation. Now, I have to say that in my case, because of my particular lifestyle, because of music, that I've moved countries 5 times. And when you're moving country, you are not going to take everything with you. You start shedding stuff. What do I really need for that next thing? And so I've been fortunate. At first, I counted myself as unfortunate that I don't have a lot of stuff because I've had to move around. I've had to let go of a lot of stuff. But recently, I've come to the frame of mind that maybe that was not a bad thing, actually, because lifetime collections um, can put you in a situation that is not good. And I'll talk about why that is, you know. I have a complete set of cast iron skillets, including a Dutch oven, ironically, living here in the Netherlands, a Dutch oven that I inherited from my great great aunt. When she passed away, I took a picture. I took a picture of her mother uh, to show my European lineage, to make sure that I wanted that in the house, keep that in mind. And also, I took her cast iron skillet complete set, small, itty bitty one, bigger one, and then the Dutch oven. And I used them. I only used them. And those were hers that she got back in the 1950s. They're stamped. So things like that I use on a daily basis, and if you don't know about cast iron and good cast iron, and you're not cooking with that, you really should be. Uh, but useful things that are handed down to us like that are great. It's when you get into things like a china set that a parent or relative may have cherished, but it's really not of much value. Its sentimental value is something that's there, but its real, intrinsic value is very low, very low. And so, honestly speaking, that's where the danger starts to occur, because this family of rolling down stuff from the next person to the next person. And some people just say, no, I'm sorry, there's nothing I want, I can't take it. I've been involved in that process myself. And so I can kind of speak to this, on a personal level. Michael Watson says, I use cast iron as well. Yeah, Michael, it's literally the only, and I can use that term literally in this case, and it actually means it, is the only thing that I cook with. I only cook with my cast iron skillets, and I was really lucky to get a really nice set, from, talk about vintage. But what's cast iron Terminator says? Well, it's worth. I would tell you this Terminator, but every now and then I'm inclined to say looking something up is reading something or looking up something up is better, because the next thing you're going to want to do is get yourself some. So look it up. Uh, Sonu says, "Say hi." Yeah, hello, welcome, Sonu. Cat's Music Journey. Oh man, cast iron skillets have the best walk. Yeah, yeah. You can make the best cornbread in the world with it. Yes, pancakes, cornbread, bacon, eggs. Those basic things. Um, I with the Dutch oven, I've made a very nice French stew, classic French stew. There's just so many things that you can do with them. Yeah. And yeah, cast iron in the fire. Yeah. So all the way around, good stuff. But things like that we get are useful, and there's something that and it keeps my great on in mind, because when I use it, I think about her. So it's a little that's a nice thing. Um, but it becomes a problem when seniors are collecting something and they're expecting a retirement income from that something, and they find out one or two things: it's not worth what they thought it was going to be, because of usually market interest is gone, and that amount of people who are interested in such a thing is just literally dying off. So then what happens? Oh, do you want my Beanie Babies collection? Well, Auntie, really kind of no. And so there's that, and that really does happen. It's your responsibility to manage your stuff while you're still alive. And I know that sounds like a grim thing to say, but I want to kind of put this in your minds tonight, this idea. Again, last live stream, we were touching upon looking around at the stuff that you have and saying, if I haven't played this in the last 3 years or more, then maybe it's something that doesn't need to be around. And this is where we can begin to say, I'm good with the things that I use. Everything else I don't need. Catch up here in the chat. I recently bought a set of cast iron pans. They claim they've already been seasoned. Should I season them again anyway or not bother? Well, seasoning really is just kind of adding. You take some oil. You can take any oil, coconut oil. You can use fat too. They used to use lard, and just smear it on the inside of that, and turn it over and fire it a little bit so that but I do that every now and then anyway. With cast iron, you want to season it every now and then, so it wouldn't harm if you got the time. um, yeah, you're going to be doing it anyway. You're going to be doing it, and rust. Be careful with these things. Rust very easily. So after you use it, you wash it, dry it, and put it away. And every now and then season it, every now and then, and they will last you so much. So if you take care of them, my aunt passed them down to me. I'm taking care of them. I can pass them down to a niece or nephew, and it's actually something I can pass down that's useful. That's actually, and not only that, Terminator, you were asking about what they are. One of the things about cast iron is that they're extremely healthy for you to cook on. Teflon, not so great. Other surfaces that people use to cook on, not so healthy for you. It's heat, getting on the material that causes issue. And with cast iron, you're actually getting a little bit of extra iron in your diet, which is not a bad thing. Cough, cough, vintage guitars. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I talked to my uncle Carlton about tonight's subject because I wanted to pick his brain on it. Because as you know, he has not, I always talk about his vintage guitar collection, but his guitar collection in general. But one thing that he pointed out that I should mention is that he has a room full of vintage um, recording gear, compressors, limiters, you know, whatever, that kind of stuff, hardware. And he says, "Man, I haven't touched that stuff in 10 years." And I said, "Uncle Carl, maybe what we should do and try, man, it is pouring out there. I can hear it in the background." I said maybe one thing that we could do, Uncle Carlton, is take pictures of that. So he got himself a new Galaxy phone. So I said, "Yeah, I know you got a good camera. Take pictures of all that stuff, and let's start talking about moving it along." Um, because you're not using it, and maybe it's money that you could use certainly right now. So I'm going to help him do that. But on the other side of the coin, there are those, vintage guitars of his. Those do have value. So, and he laughed about it. He says, "Not me." I told him, I said, "Well, tonight's the subject is going to be on leaving stuff behind of, to the of not, collections is not great value is one of the topics." And he says, "Not me." He says, "I don't have, my stuff is good." So much so he says everybody's, is mad about, who I've decided to give what to. And I said, well, that's usual. But in a lot of cases, it's not true. A lot of cases, it's not true. That's not the case. My Uncle Carlton, being who he is and what he is, that's an exception to the rule. But for the most case, it's not. So there's that. Now it is really boring outside. That is crazy. I can hear it. Now, a general rule of thumb, it doesn't apply to me. I've never lived solidly in one place for 10 years since the 1990s. Even in Japan, I broke that up into cumulatively it came out to 18 years, but it was 8 years, 7 years here, 5 years here, 3 years there, that kind of thing. But going back and forth between the other countries. But, you know, If you haven't used it in 10 years, you never will. I'll say that again. If you have not used it in 10 years, you never will. So that's your starting point. That's really your starting point. You want to go through your stuff and take a look around and say, it's working out, working in. 10 years, 5 years, 3 years is the way that I like to look at it. Me, I can do 5 years. As a matter of fact, I'm coming up on 5 years now, and I'm going to look at the stuff that I brought over from Singapore in the last 5 years that's just been sitting in a box. Excuse me. And if I don't use it, if I haven't used it in the last 5 years, it's probably something that needs to go. Probably something that needs to go. Because I have no children. I have nieces and nephews, but I'm not going to, lay my stuff on them when I kick off this moral coil, nor would I expect for them to take it. So I am again thinking of the I'm good lifestyle, especially when you get older like this, is about living responsibly too. Hey, you can have your music. I make great records with minimal amount of equipment, because my hero made the greatest record, 1999, in my opinion, top five great record of all time, and he did it with minimum equipment, minimal. So, from my own standpoint, guitars, pedals, amps, hobby collections, clothing, old tech, Uncle Carlton. Um, if it hasn't been used in 10 years, you need to get rid of it. You know, Clothing, I'll give an exception. I wore this tonight specifically to discuss this because this is a vintage jacket that I got on my first trip to Europe in 1999. I bought this in Milan. And if you think that, so it's definitely, past that 10-year rule. It's actually going on 26 years I've had this jacket. Now, certain things like this coat, now it's vintage denim. Of course, I use it. It doesn't sit around the closet for 10 years. If you do have vintage stuff like this that you're not using, then vintage clothing shops these days are springing up everywhere, and they'll buy your vintage clothing from you. Usually by the pound. If you have a lot of stuff, they'll do a deal like that. Certain percent amount per pound of clothing, but that is a place to start. But if you have stuff that you want to hold on to, then hold on to it. But again, this is not just guitars, amps, and pedals. This is also clothing and old tech. You got to know the difference between emotional attachment and practical reality. And practical reality dictates that you're not going to be here forever, unfortunately, as much as that Alien Earth TV show that's on right now. I've been watching it, and there's so much transhumanism. As a matter of fact, they talk about transhumanism openly in that, and this idea of we want to live forever, so we're going to download ourselves into X, Y, and Z. Well, until they figure that out, and I pray that they never do, because it sounds like a nightmare. I know it is. You have to start thinking a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more responsible. And emotional attachment and practical reality should be those two things that you should be weighing. Scott Bogfoot says, I spent more than a month's wages on a suit for my brother's wedding. It has to last. I have to be buried in it, basically. Roger. Hey man, randomly caught one of your prior streams. Interesting stuff. Well, thank you, Roger. I appreciate you even, chiming in. We cover a lot of subjects here, but tonight the motto of this channel is I'm good. And I'm kind of going back to that, getting back to basics in tonight's discussion, just talking about, let's be practical here about some aspects in our lives and stuff, especially us as musicians, because we tend to gather a lot of it, may be something that may want to address looking forward. I keep telling boomers, Maddie says, no one young wants their vintage instruments. New ones are better. They hate that. You're not wrong. I'm sorry, there is generational drift. Um, I pointed out at the Monterey Vintage Guitar. I'm sorry, the Monterey Vintage car show. The vintage cars, anything prior to 1990, did not sell or were under their bids. The young cats, the new money, the young guys who were in it, they didn't want, a 1964 Austin Martin. They weren't interested. They wanted a 2000, what was that? That was a big seller. I forget that car, sports car. Anyway, they wanted, oh my gosh, it's right at the tip of my tongue. In any case, they didn't want that. And I don't see too many young cats going forward who are going to be drooling over vintage guitars. It's the older market that wants it, the older guys. And that's coming from a guy who buys and sells vintage guitars, I'm telling you. So you're correct about that. Hey uncle, how you doing? Oh, what color is your Bugatti? That's a great question. If I got one, it had to be black, to be honest. That's the best color for that thing, or really, really, nice midnight green. I always wonder how we spend big on formal wear that we wear twice a year, whereas casual wear we cheap out. I think we have that backwards. Well, yeah, true. You know, I myself took advantage of when I was in Singapore and living in Asia to have most of my clothes made, to be frank with you guys. My shoes are made. I don't wear tennis shoes very often. I know it sounds a little snobby, but again, it's a generational thing. I don't wear a lot of tennis shoes. But all my shoes that I wear are handmade. A lot of my coats and shirts and things like that are handmade, and they'll last because they were quality. And I feel that I'm not running out there to buy more. And because I have good taste, I didn't buy anything that'll fall out of fashion. I didn't get a Steve Harvey suit. I know you guys don't know that, but Steve Harvey, the U.S. Based comedian, had his own suit line, and my God, they were so '90s and so tacky. Oh, they were tacky. I used to laugh, joke about that when I saw his suit shop. I was like, who is this for? Man, I can't afford a tee to fit me for the life of me. Everything has gone oversized. Yeah, and I'm a small guy too, but I was fortunate and still am fortunate that all of my stuff, t-shirts, things like this is Uniqlo, but this is Uniqlo Shibuya. I still have my clothes sent over, t-shirts, or if somebody goes over, I say, hey, go stop in Uniqlo and pick me up a couple of these, a pair of jeans and things like that. Most of my clothes, 95% of my clothes come out of Japan or Asia. 95% of them. I have the rare ones like this Milan coat. I know that sounds fancy, but the point of that is that I buy quality because I know it'll last. The stuff here, it doesn't last. It doesn't last. I tried to buy clothes here, but if you wash them a few times, and it falls apart. So quality stuff, a little bit of quality stuff, and this can extend out to whatever AV gear you're using. It could extend out to microphones, because you buy a quality microphone or a couple of quality microphones, you don't need to buy anymore, and therefore the stuff that you use is good stuff. It's quality stuff that won't wear out, and you're good. And as opposed to buying that accumulation of buying junk. Let me buy the $30 pedal of the week, or the $150 under $150 guitar of the week. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, you can buy those things, but try selling or getting rid of a $30 pedal. Try it. Try it. See what you get for it. And because of that, you're stuck with this collection of cheap pedals. You know, I use that as an example, but you can extend that out. Glow have changed their sizes here. Sus. Yeah, it does. It does suck. Yeah, that's another thing too. I'm gonna have tailor stuff too to get it to fit. Yeah, just like everything in nowadays junk, it's hard to find quality anything anymore, especially when it comes to food. Boy, it's not just clothing that I have sent over from Japan. I also have food sent over from Japan as well. Fortunately, they've got stuff that comes in packs that you can just heat up in hot water, like Japanese curries, dry rice, Japanese flour, Japanese seasonings, things of that nature. Um, and when you try that stuff, and even the flour. Like if I take a good, bag of Japanese flour that somebody brought over, and in a care kit to me, and I compare it with the European flour, they're completely different, and the taste is different as well. A lot of interesting things there. H&M Cool Max line for t-shirts, years of washing, drying, and heavy use. Yeah, H&M is the one that I used to go. There was an H&M at Terminal 21 in Bangkok. And when I lived in Singapore, I would go to Bangkok about once a month, to be frank with you. And I always went to the H&M. So when I say my clothes come from Southeast Asia, there are some of them are H&M, um, but they're ones that I got, in Southeast Asia at that Terminal 21. But yeah, H&M stuff is good. I've got some H&M clothes. Yeah, I can vouch for them, but only, like I said, the stuff that I got, in Asia. Mike, while in Japan, did you watch shows like Takeshi's Castle? Yeah. Um, Japanese TV, when I got there in the winter of 95, was a lot wilder. Um, I went over there with a singer, a girl. We were sharing an apartment. That's just how it was. Woohoo. Sharon, beautiful girl, beautiful woman. And we were watching midnight. We had just got back home from playing the club. It was about midnight. And we put on Japanese TV. Oh, let's watch Japanese TV in our apartment. And we laughed so hard. We didn't speak a lick of Japanese between us, but we laughed so hard that you didn't have to speak Japanese. There was one scene where it started out as like a normal set with the Alps, and you had the Japanese guy with the little blonde wig on with the pigtails and the dress and the little red cheeks, and a guy dressed up like a farmer, with the farmer's hat. All Japanese actors, and another guy dressed up like a cow. And it just started, they were just singing this little song. And then it got really, 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 really twisted. Where the cow started humping it was pretty twisted. We just died. And Takeshi Castle was one of those things that came on a lot too. So yeah, a lot of Japanese TV. And then when I started speaking and learning Japanese, to this day, to this very day, I still watch Japanese TV. I watch it every day on YouTube. Yeah, it's just a matter of collecting stuff, guys. You know, have you ever held on to something for years and realized that you never used it? You know, the idea of I'm good again, looking at it from another way, is of course being content with what you have first and foremost. Um, and of the things that you have, try to make sure they are the best quality that you can muster, because quality things will work out for you. And when you find you got a quality suit, or you got a quality microphone, or a quality whatever guitar, you find that you really don't need anything else after that. You can move on to the next thing of quality that you'd like to add that you're going to use. The opposite of that is letting go of what you don't need. You know? And that's the hardest thing. See, it's so easy to collect things. We do it all the time. It's hard to let things go, especially for some people. Me, because of the lifestyle again, I am an outlier. I'm willing to admit that. My life has been the life of an outlier, and the percentage of people in this world who have lived this lifestyle is very small. So it I can imagine if I had stayed in LA, it's quite possible that I would have collected and hoarded a great deal of things. By the nature of my lifestyle, I've had to shed things. So it's a little bit. I'm sitting on a throne here. I'm trying to say to you guys, you could turn around and say, "Well, that's easy for you to say, Mike." Because I've been in this house for 20 years and I've collected stuff and this, that, and the other, and I have to acknowledge that, which is what I'm trying to do, although rather awkwardly here. But what I'm trying to say is, however, that I can understand how hard it is to let things go, but you have to. One of the things that has been drilled into me is the ability to let things go. I don't, you guys have seen that. Things, I don't get sentimental. That's not a great thing that's come of this lifestyle, my lack of sentimentality, mostly when it comes to things, but it has served me. I got less clutter. I got less stress. I got more focus when I'm working, you know, and I have the freedom to really enjoy the things that I really use. Um, and everything else, don't need it. Don't need it. Donating things is something that I do. So there's another way of letting things go. You don't have to have the yard sale necessarily. Maybe you could donate some things. I've donated guitars. Um, I've donated a lot of things to. I've donated, a lot of things. And I think that that's something that you can do that would pay it forward, as they say, and would be a positive thing for you to do. So it's not just decluttering, it's actually a mental shift. But you have to be willing to take that first step and honestly speak to yourself, again, looking in the mirror and asking yourself, what am I do I really need that? Do I really need that? And start from 10 years, work to 5 years. I haven't had this use this in 10 years. That's the first to go without any question. The 5 year stuff is where you can start to say, well, maybe of that I'm going to keep, but that one is not necessary. And then break that down to 3 years. I haven't really used this in three. When you get to that 3 year point, that's where you're good. I'm not even there. I'm at a 5 year stage right now. But again, that's been born out of necessity because I've moved on average every 5 years. Fortunately, not going anywhere. I think, like the old song, "Our Love Is Here to Stay." I think this is a permanent place for me here in Europe, in the Netherlands. But I don't want to start now cluttering up my house. I have a very non-cluttered house, and I'd like to keep it this way. Bearded Conversations in the house. Peace to you, sir. How you doing? So glad to have you here. Speaking of which, let me catch up here in the chat. Um, Cat's Music Journey. We talked about that. Omar, hey, you live in Japan. Does it snow? Is it expensive? Yes, Omar. I did live in Japan for many, many years, for 18 years, and depends upon where you're at. It's not going to snow in Okinawa. Certainly going to snow in Hokkaido. When I first got there, I was wearing leather shoes, and it was snowing sideways, and that was not fun walking in the snow in a set of leather shoes. So I learned my lesson real. Fortunately I know about snow, so I learned my lesson real quick. Is it expensive? If you're being paid in yen, yes. If you're being paid in any other currency, no. Yeah. So welcome to you guys. Everybody else showing up here. Adventures of a Travelers. Yeah, yeah, man. You step outside your front door and you're subject for anything to happen. One day, back in 1995, I stepped out my front door, and here we are. 5 countries, lovely friends all over the world, literally all over the world, and can be called one of the original Passport brothers. Although I met a lot of ones who have been around a lot older than me. Now we are here in the Netherlands, and we are glad to be here on this fine Sunday night live with you guys. Always good to be here. Let's talk about practical tips. I don't like to throw out stuff without giving you suggestions of what you can do. And by the way, I said that this discussion tonight is something that really pertains to older guys in their late 40s, 50s, even 60s. But for you younger heads out there, this is something that you should really keep in mind too. Talking about clutter, talking about, do you really want to be leaving this stuff behind to your family? Keep it keep it neat. Start small. Go through your closets. Go through your gear rooms. Go through what I'm going to do. Go through old boxes. And really, as I said, use that 10, 5, and 3 rule. If you haven't used it in 10 years, it's automatically gone. If you haven't used it in 5 years, ask yourself, what is it that this is for, and is it really worth it? Categorize that way. Keep, sell, donate. Keep, sell, donate. That's the way that you should be looking at all of your possessions. Is this something I'm keeping? Is this something I'm selling? Is this something that I have an eye to donate? I have a guitar here behind me that I've been wanting to donate for the longest time, but I have not had any takers on it. The opportunity, as they usually do, the universe tends to unfold as it should. Um, the opportunity to do so will, but when it does, it's always been slated for that, and that's what it will go to do. Do it while you're still able is the biggest point of this. Not when your kids are in their 60s or 70s. and and you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, open that box over there for me. What's in that? You don't want to be that guy. You want to have all that sorted out. You want to have all that sorted out before you get to that point. You want to go into your 60s with pretty much, well, everything sorted out, and with yourself surrounded by the things that you intend to spend your next 10, 20, or 30 years, if you're fortunate, with. Everything else has got to go. That time of collecting stuff is gone. But if you start this earlier in life, what you'll find out is that you save yourself a lot of money at an early stage in your life, which is always good because that sets you up for success. The other thing that you'll find out is that you'll have yourself a neater, cleaner environment. And that's not a bad thing. And your ability to get up and go is a lot easier. We're tied down by things too. Sometimes people want to go off and do things, but they can't do them because they're tied down by the things they have at home. They're too worried about their stuff. Therefore, the financial versus emotional value is really to be considered. Sometimes letting go is more valuable than keeping. I'm just saying. All it takes is for one to all it takes is for one to the action to make change. Yep, I agree. Hey, 164, how you doing? I'll pay the shipping. Want a guitar? No, sir. This one is for donating. But if something like that comes up, I will keep you in mind. Actually, I'll put you on my list. Then there is a list of it, and it does get filled, so I will keep you in mind. But this one's for donation. Omar, the Blues Brothers was a goofy movie. I could only have an amplifier and a guitar and work clothes. Yeah, I don't think they would want it. I would like your guitar though. Yeah. No, when donate, by the way, guys, is by the way, donation should be to an organization like I like to give to, or schools where children, young heads can get their hands on something well taken care of. And so those are the things that youth. When I think donation, I always think young folks. And when I mean young folks, I'm talking about not even teenagers yet, kids, you know. So when you're doing that, keep, sell, donate, think about when that on that donate part, as much as you think about where you're going to sell it or where you're going to keep it, think about where you're going to donate it as well. And pick an organization that means something to you, and that you, again, like I said, you're advancing the cause. As Beer Conversation was just saying earlier, just one person took that one step in order to change somebody's life. Michael Watson says, I agree. I've been giving my kids things of mine for years. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. So we need to start thinking about drawing a line there. You can donate to me. My daughter plays keyboard and guitar. That's great. I got to get her one. Yes, that's great. We really downsized a couple of years ago, Michael Watson says. Yes, downsizing, guys, downsizing. I know you don't want to hear nobody. Oh, it's such a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. To be sure, lads, it's a terrible thing, but it's a truth. It's a realism. And you're going to die. It's sure. I don't care what that Alien Earth movies, TV show says. You're going to shake off your mortal coil one of these days. And one of the things that you don't want to be doing is leaving behind a clutter. Plus, it's a sad thing too, man. You've seen the stories, and personally yourself on a personal level, or heard stories of somebody having to go to somebody's house and go through their stuff. You want to make that, and it's emotional too. That should have been something that should have been done before you took your last breath, is what I'm trying to say. If you do it right. If you do it right. And the I'm good philosophy is I'm good with leaving this earth tomorrow if I have to as well. See, it's interesting today. I went down and drug out of my down in the basement. Yes, I'm actually on the top floor, but I have a lower floor. Dig that. To this place where I have my emergency bag at. And I went through my emergency kit today. I keep an emergency backpack. I have everything that you could think of if you had to bolt out, if I had to bolt out of this house, everything that I would need to survive out on the streets, I have in that bag for a certain amount of days. Batteries have to be renewed. Um, Rice and dry goods, things like that, have to be renewed. Stored water has to be renewed. Things like that, you're going to cycle through, and you're going to throw away the stuff that you don't need. You're going to replace it with stuff that you do need. And some of the stuff that you thought at one point may be something that you would need, you might reevaluate. I did that today. said, do I really need this? It was a solar panel. It's a solar panel you can take out. You can plug your phone into it or whatever, and as long as you got a sunny day, you got a charge there. You don't need to plug into anywhere. And I was thinking, this is something that I really need because I have a generator that's hand crank that also you can plug your phone into and crank it, and it will generate enough current, in order to charge your phone. So those are kind of redundancies. Redundancies is something that you can go through too. I'm talking to you guitar players. Redundancy is a hard one, because again, you have to really decide which one is of value, which one is going to help out, which one is really, when it comes down to it, nuts and bolts, is what you really need. And that's why I said taking that step and being able to get rid of stuff is the toughest thing for people. That's why I say if you donate to a cause that you believe in, at least it gives you the motivation to want to do it. But you got to take that first step. It feels a lot better to downsize than you think, guys. Just get it over. Yeah, I agree. It's a tough step though, Michael, for a lot of people to be able to make that move. But as was stated here, you'll feel good. And it's a mental clearing as well. You'll be surprised by getting rid of things, the mental clarity that you'll have as well. No matter what you say, Mike, I intend on taking my guitars with me when I die. I've told people that I'm making my own casket out of them. I can dig that. Again, we're all allowed, our things. My book collection, I will not get rid of. I have a complete set of Josephus works. I have my Bullfinch Greek mythology dictionary that I've had since I was 10. I've had quite a few books in my library that I've had for decades that I won't let go. So I can understand. We all have our thing. That's okay. The guitars, they may have some resale value. So there's something there. The books, they can all be packed up in, a good size, carrier and not cause anybody too much trouble within 5 minutes. So again, I allow myself that, but in reality, who knows? Who's really going to want those books? Who's going to read them? There's that issue as well. I read a story that said people are graduating from college and they never read a physical book in their life. And I find that to be astounding. I find that to be astounding. Jack Wax says, "Rest in peace, Charlie." Indeed, rest in peace. God, speed to his soul. And I share in that. Rest in peace, Charlie. Indeed. People and pets. You know, people are a good thing together around you. Good people. Again, like I said, you keep the things that are committed, and you get rid of the things that are non-committed. Pets are a good thing to have around you, especially if you don't have any kids. I never had any children. So my dogs and cats have been a great companion to me over the years. So yeah, things like that. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. But again, these are things that I use every day. I pet my dog every day, so it can stay. I come from a long line, Scott says, of collectors. When I was a kid in the 80s, my dad bought an entire library that closed down. My home was filled with rare books. Yes. A wonderful, wise move on it. That's an admirable thing to do, by the way, that your dad did to save those, because God knows what would have happened otherwise if he hadn't stepped in. So that's great. That's a fantastic story for a guy like me who loves books. My mom loves books. These books were some of the books that was in her library collection. And one day when she was going through the process of downsizing, which at the time I was trying to, but again, I understand now. Um, she said, "Take the books that you want. The other ones are gonna, are gonna get tossed." I say, "Well, we can't throw these books away." So of course, I loaded it up, and I do read them. I go back to them. I've been doing a study on Greek mythology, tying back to the antediluvian flood in Atlantis, and Bulfinch's Greek mythology has been great. I can read things in there and with a better understanding and clarity than I did when I was a kid. Josephus' works are extremely useful, especially if you're studying ancient history. So these are things that I still use. So even the books, they don't fall. They. I just recently looked at Bulfinch's mythology, actually. So again, you got to use them. I also have a whale skeleton and a microfiche machine for reading old news. I remember the old microfiche machines. I used to actually have to use those. Nobody believes me until I show them the humpback in my attic. Is that a metaphor, Mike? I'm sorry, Scott. Is that a metaphor? Mike is cracking up. Maddie two hats. That's pretty wild, man. Well, if you're living, like Bruce Wayne and you got the space for it, then sure. But even the humpback whale could find a home, I'm sure, if was, if it came to it. I'm sure that again, we can all find places for things. But we have to ask ourselves, yeah, we're going to go down swinging with our stuff, but is there somebody else afterward who's going to go down that same path with you? And if not, then wouldn't it have been better if while you were alive, you were in control of making sure that they got to at least somewhere that you were happy with or did some good or, made you feel good or something like that? Just consider, guys. Just consider. Just something to consider. So declutter while you can. Declutter while you can. Let go of what you don't use. Do it yourself while you can, not from the nursing home. And apply the model of I'm good, satisfaction with what you got, not with what you hoard. This week, my call to action to you guys is pick one corner of your house, just one corner of your house, and declutter it. And see how that makes you feel afterwards. Just pick one room, one corner of a room, doesn't have to be a whole room, and declutter it. And see how that makes you feel. Well, let me catch up here in the chats. We gave a guy some rib bones that he made an arch in the garden out of them. Oh, that's wonderful. See? See? That's cool. That's cool. And Maddie says, I'm seeing the Flintstones. No, I saw a house like that. There's a house in San Diego. If you look at, I love that TV actor who has a Zillow Gone Wild is the name of his TV show on HGTV. McBride is the guy's name. I really like him. He for some reason he just cracks me up. But one of the houses that he went to, these strange houses you find on Zillow, was a house that was made from whale bones, and the archway was from the rib bones. So I've actually seen that. I've seen people do that. Um, so that's kind of cool, actually. So anyway, um, that's it, guys. I really just want you to think about that. This message tonight really was for older guys. But if you're younger, honestly, you can see where it might benefit you to take a look around and say, yeah, maybe I don't need this so much. Because you don't want to be one of those guys where, you go to the uncle's house or you go to the aunt's house or whatever's house and you're looking around and like, where am I going to sit? Well, just clear some stuff over there. There's a chair under there somewhere. Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I really don't. You know, And you don't want to be that guy either or girl either. Don't be that person. You know, um, I don't have much, but the stuff that I do have is of good quality, and it will last me. It will last me in again tomorrow or 30 years from now. But either way, I'm good right now. At 58 years old, I'm not leaving behind a big clutter. You could fill this room up with my things and still have some room. And I'm really, I'm talking about, of course I have furniture and I'm not saying that to TVs and monitors, but what I'm saying is I don't have a lot of things. So, and I intend on keeping it this way. And therefore, the I'm good philosophy is something that I'm not just talking about, I'm living it on a day to day basis. Even with my pedal board, like I said, I got that pedal board from 8 pedals, from like a billion jajillion pedals down to 8 pedals. Now I've got it down to 5 pedals, and I can look at everything around me. Okay, let me try to reduce this. Let me get rid of redundancies. Let me try to make this work in a smaller footprint and try to make Mike McWilliams work in a smaller footprint. Mike can still do Mike things, but he's not taking up a lot of space doing it. And this is not a communist or socialist rant either, because that's one of the things they talk about. You hear that, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. No, own your stuff and like it because your stuff is good. It's good stuff. But don't get into the consumer trap of feeling that surrounding yourself with things is somehow going to improve your life or make you happier. It shall not. It won't. So, just a thought, guys. All right, I will say good night, Oyasamina aside to you guys over here because it's the evening, but I'll say good morning, good afternoon to everybody else. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Our good friend Three Chord Dave is back. Please take the time to go over to the Three Chord Dave channel and take a look at that video, por favor, if you may, if you please, if you will. Support our good friend Dave. I am so happy to have him back again. I like to surround myself with people smarter than me, and having Dave back in this scene, really helps. Um, it really helps. It helps elevate this guitar YouTube scene. He really does. So check that out, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. As always, gentlemen, God bless each and every one of you. I will definitely see you, God willing, for this Wednesday night hump. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.